I've spent the entire week putting 10 years worth of knowledge and lots of ups, lots of things going right when it comes to structuring teams. And I'm about to actually share this training with my team. And all of this can be applied to pretty much every single business. And I actually, as a fact, know that every single business needs this. So if you're in business, make sure you watch the entire video. I will attach all of the details in the link below. For those that don't know me, my name is Daniel Dalen. I grew up in China, but I'm originally from the Netherlands. I dropped out when I was 16 and I've been freelancing, doing a bunch of things from design to development to helping people purchase products in China. And I have founded several businesses. You can take this information very serious because I truly wish someone was giving these things to me. So the main business that I am currently building is a fulfillment center that is based out of China. We're helping D2C brands, or better said, e-commerce brands, to fulfill globally to well over 60 countries from China. This comes with loads of benefits, and if you're curious, that link will be in the description as well, so you can check that out too. But yeah, it involves a business with hundreds of people, with a big part of the team also being very scattered, and that's why we need really good processes and systems. And one thing that is extremely important when it comes to doing business in general is documentation and actually empowering your team to collaborate, but also innovate and give them more ownership so you can focus on the things that really matter. So with all of that said, I've got a few more minutes until the meeting starts. So yeah, we're gonna get straight into it. All right, everyone. Very good to have you. As I mentioned, I'm going to start this actual training with a little bit of an update because we're in Q3, we're entering Q4, which is a very big month for us as a company. And I want to just take a second to stand still and kind of reflect and take you guys through where we currently are. After that, I'm going to take you through the main purpose of this meeting, which is training or giving a training around SOPs, which stands for Standard Operating Procedures, which you'll learn all about in this meeting. Now, that said, let's actually take a second to stand still. It's within 2 weeks, our new warehouse is going to be finished. This is going to be 10,000 square meters. As you can see on the right, just a few months ago, we walked into this new empty space, and currently there's stock that is slowly being transferred. And within 2 times, our new warehouse is going to be completely operational. Within the entire lifetime of us as a company, we have really set the foundation for each and every single department, which now is the time to really upgrade and grow each and every single department. We're talking finance department, tech department, design department, marketing and sales, legal department, research department, customer facing support, an actual operation team that is dealing in between China, as you can see, the on the ground China operations team and the actual warehouse team. Now, statistically, based on the current volume we're actually doing, we're going to be processing orders at the current pace, considering that we're not growing. Now, on average, we have grown these last 4 months or 3 months, we've on average grown %. And us as a company are currently employing well over people, which is a really big thing. And especially when, actually walking into the warehouse itself, for me, it was a really big realization how big it actually is what we're doing. Now, cherry on the pie, we've brought on advisors. Now, we haven't just brought on any advisor. We have brought on the person who has built Apple 200 warehouses in 16 weeks and is very well known within the US in the supply chain industry and has been of incredible support with really taking us to the next level. And that's exactly what this meeting is about, because we need to reach these new levels and we cannot repeat, the same things that are getting us to where we are right now in order to go to a new level. So here's just like a quick, breakdown of our revenue growth, which is, the last 3 months. I won't go into too much detail here. Now, with peak season around the corner, which we're really gonna have like another meeting for that in itself. The big question is, how do we maintain our current momentum? And most importantly, how do we improve it? Now, it's really important to understand where we are as a company. And I've gone through quite a few of these stages, but being very honest with you, we're also entering a new stage because we're really growing as a company. And when starting a business, which, especially in between me and Vince, we've done quite a lot of stuff. Now, it always starts with just figuring shit out, which is micro, by just doing. You don't think it through, you just do. Then once you start to see that you're onto something, you're going to need a little more structure. Now, we've applied a lot of structure already, but now it is time for the team to get ahead of us. And what does that mean? It means that the team is really going to take ownership of each and every single department and is going to build that out themselves and continuously optimize that department in itself. So how do we maintain this actual growth? I'll tell you what we shouldn't do. So majority of these companies actually break down because of like companies that experience growth like we are. It's because of lack of scalable infrastructure. There's overexpansion, the operational overload is getting too big, and those things are not controlled. Now, the only problem that I really see for our business is really number 3. Since we're growing so quickly, we want to make sure that we maintain a really good team culture and don't leave like leadership gaps, as in like miscommunication within the kind of like management level within the company, which this meeting is really for, is really for the management level, because everyone in this call is going to have their own department, or they already have their own department, but it's going to be, a matter of optimizing and growing the actual department. Now, how do we create, control? How do we as a company feel in control? It comes down to 2 things. You have ownership and communication. And I'm going to break both of these down for you. So ownership really starts with owning your position. And one thing that I have spoken about even in previous meetings, and this is something that is extremely important to understand, is we are a professional sports team. And, with all respect to every other founder that is managing their company and calling, everyone, with us a family, the truth is that it may feel like a family because we get along really well, but the truth is that we are a professional sports team. Every single position in this company is earned, and that includes even me as a founder, as well as Vince, my co-founder. Nothing should ever, in whatever form or shape, be taken for granted, and everyone has to perform because we have to win the match. Now, the second thing in terms of ownership comes down to documentation and delegations, where it's very simple. Within a company, you have 2 types of people. You have people that learn and you have people that implement. Ownership is really the way you can show that you can delegate and that you can implement the things that you've learned. And this is what this meeting is all about. I'm going to go in much more detail. Now, the last point is measure to manage and own. So once you own your actual responsibility, it's really important that you put numbers to the things that you own. And I'll explain to you why. Because 1, it drives accountability, and 2, it allows you to manage. Because one of the things that is one of the worst things that, anyone who has a management level within a company can do is tell you, oh yeah, we had such good sales calls this week. You think like us as a founder that has to manage the company, or like us as a team collectively care about things going good or bad? It all begins with what is good and what is bad, which comes down to 10 new clients in 1 week, that's all right. 20 clients in 1 week, that's better. It comes down to documenting these numbers, and that applies to each and every single department. Moving on to communication. Now, ownership is essentially like the first part that you take in order to get to control. Communication is what comes next. So once you understand and once you do all of that, it is extremely important that you document, which is also a form of communication, but also actually communicate. And this is going to result in you aligning as a team all together, which is going to really drive collaboration. Because once everyone else is up to date and understands what it is that you are responsible for, or better said, what you take ownership of, the team can actually jump in. Now, I've showed this chart before, but since we've grown a lot as a company, I want to just like show this to you guys again, because this is a chart that I really love, because it really shows how powerful communication is. This is y-axis, and as you can see on the left side here, we have action and value. Now, if you put in low action and you don't communicate, you're in a very bad spot. When you put in a lot of action and you don't communicate, you are still in a pretty bad spot, because people are not aware of the things that you do. When you are putting in no effort, no action, and you communicate a lot, you actually buy yourself a lot of time until people find out, hey, they're actually doing nothing. Now, us as a company should always strive to be really on top of our actions and the value that we provide, and make sure that that is clearly communicated. So when achieving control, what does that mean? Control really means that it's clear for you, but also for all of your other team members. And the big problem is that when it's clear in your head, but it's not clear on paper, which makes us which is going to take us from a medium-sized company to an actual big company. Because I'll tell you what is like the difference between those two things. Because you have, again, like that actual, you being in control as a person, but everything that's in your head is not clear to other people. And that comes down to two ways. It comes down to personal control and systemic control. Now, I'm going to explain to you what personal control is, which is the killer of a lot of companies that see a lot of growth. Is they're very dependent on just like an individual itself that holds a lot of information, which is not allowing you to grow as a company or to delegate or to grow, that department in itself or collaborate with people. And I'll break down very, quickly what these points are. So first of all, it leads to bottlenecks. When only one person has knowledge, tasks get delayed if they're unavailable. Limits delegation. People hesitate to delegate because they're the only ones who know how to do a certain task. Hindering actual team collaboration. People cannot contribute fully because they lack the necessary information or context. Because if you don't understand what's going on, you can't give feedback, you can't help, improve that specific thing. It creates a lot of stress and burnout. And this is something that I, see happen in our company a lot. When being the sole keeper of information and knowledge, it puts a lot of pressure on an individual, leading to a lot of stress as well as exhaustion. And that's obviously something that you want to avoid, because all the other problems will occur when someone is, unavailable because of too much stress or exhaustion. Now, it also stops us from really, having good innovation, because when control is centralized, it really discourages anyone to share new ideas or, solutions, which is really just slowing down us coming up with improving this and innovating like our current processes and systems. So then also when, someone were to leave us, is also going to cause disruption because no one else knows how to continue the work or the things they have done. Systemic control versus personal control. We're talking about systemic control right now. This is the exact opposite of personal control. And what this does is when clear processes are in place, tasks can be very easily handed off to other team members without losing efficiency, because it's properly documented and, it's just an oiled machine and people know what to do, how to do. So when everyone has access to that information, it actually allows us to collaborate way more as a team and look at it from a problem solving perspective involving multiple people. Now, the workflows are going to be much smoother because tasks are not dependent on just one person. These documented processes allow us to easily grow as a team. When we onboard new team members, they can be trained and they can be brought up to speed very quickly. Now, it also going to increase the actual consistency of us delivering service as a company, which is going to, lead into standardized procedures that will allow us to manage the actual outcome and have way more reliable outcomes, because we know all the things that we have documented are consistent. When all of this again is in place, it also really going to empower us as a team to just involve everyone and find new ways to innovate. Now, especially with a succession plan, when with systemic control, if anyone leaves, a business can continue without really disruption because of someone having a certain set of knowledge that is only accessible through that person. Now, it also going to reduce stress as us as a company, because when there's a lot of pressure on a certain set of service, we can actually grow the team more and we can very quickly get new team members up to speed to help the actual management levels within our company. So how do we go from personal control to systemic control? Everything starts with personal control. There's no denying of that, because everyone in our company has to take ownership, and you have to start with understanding what it is that you do and then taking ownership of that. The thing is that everything we do is not personal. We as a company are extremely reliant on collaborating together with a lot of cross communication between different departments. So how do we create a space that allows collaboration and innovation driven by ownership? So how do you take ownership? Owning your position, that's really what it starts. And what I mean by owning your position is that you have to understand your position. What is it that you do? What is your department, and how do you, help us win the race? Once you really understand that, and once you're clear on all of that, you start to document and delegate. You define your position with daily, weekly, and as needed actions that are repeatable and that you literally can just document. Now, the third thing that you do is you actually measure them. As I mentioned earlier, you explain the good, you explain the bad, but in measurable values. Because saying that, oh yeah, we've had a really good week. Why is it a good week? Is this week up to our standards? And we as a team can collectively decide if these standards are firm enough, or if we, have to, tighten the screws and increase the bar. Now, the next step is to actually execute. And once you execute, you will understand even better. And that is obviously like a cycle that you will keep repeating. Then once that is done, you start to involve. You bring in other team members, which is going to stimulate the next point, which is improve through collaboration, which is going to take us all the way back to delegation. Because once we are aware of how we can improve, it is redocumented, it's going to be remeasured, it's going to be re-executed, the team's going to be re-involved, and we will improve. And that is a cycle that we will keep repeating. Now, every company needs a source of truth. And a source of truth refers to a single authoritative source or a system where accurate and consistent up-to-date information is stored and maintained. Now, you can find like all sorts of relevant data from records to, our customers, to really anything that is important to us and that, allows us to make really good decisions, actually operate as a company and also report. Now, we currently have two sources of truth. One is within Notion, where we have our standard operating procedures and policies. We have Airtable, which is our CRM. And how do we continuously build our source of truth? Because we actually have a lot of these foundations in place already. But as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this meeting, what works now doesn't necessarily work for tomorrow, because getting from 0 to 1 requires certain systems, certain people. What's getting us from 1 to 10 is going to require new systems, new processes, new people. And what's going to get us from 1 to 20 is exactly the same. Now, this is something that we as a company have to continuously work on, continuously improve. We know as a company that, a lot of people just know their shit. So it's really important. And that's also like one of the goals with this training. It's like, why would I tell you what or how to do when there's really a lot of people within our company that know a lot of things way better than me? So it's really important to understand that there is a lot of freedom and responsibility within this whole ownership thing that I've been talking about, and also a lot of trust from our side, because the fact that you're on this call here means that you've been, picked out of a very, very long list of people that want to be part of us. So your shit, but now it's time to really show it. So building our source of truth. We're going to redo our SOPs. There's a little typo here. It's supposed to be SOP. So I've already given it a first swing at just like redefining each and every single step. But this is of course still free to be amended, but I'll get to that during the end of the meeting. Now, ownership of your responsibility. So once more, I'm going to run these by you. You have to own your responsibility, understand it. You have to document this. You're going to make sure that this is measured. You're going to execute. You're going to involve your other team members, and you're going to improve, and you're going to cycle back to documentation after. That is the cycle that we're all going to repeat for each and every single department within our business. Now, this is just a refresher, what we can achieve with this. I'm not going to run you guys through it. Yeah. So I came up with a system that is essentially like this whole repetitive thing that I've spoken about, and that's ADO system, which comes down to analyze, document, optimize. Analyze, document, optimize. As I mentioned, we have a lot of foundation in place already, and this is something that we just have to consistently repeat as a company. And once we have that documentation in place, this is actually going to allow us to do that. Now, we're storing all of this in Notion, and if you know me, I love Notion. The reason for that is because we can really integrate everything into one source, and I'll get to like breaking down these different pages in just a second, because we can actually like really integrate everything, because we work with Airtable, we work with Google Drive and all of that, and it's going to be very easy for us that within this documentation, link the relevant files to all of these different platforms as well. But again, storing it all in one source of truth. Now, this is going to allow us to seamlessly collaborate, where we as a company get to very easily give feedback on each and every single step within this source of truth. On top of that, we'll have a page history, which is really going to allow us to guard if, let's hope that doesn't happen, anyone were to, delete a page by accident or make mistakes or, make adjustments that weren't supposed to be there. It's going to be really easy for us to just revert the changes from anyone who hopefully not would make a mistake. Now, this is actually a really cool feature, because we've been seeing a lot of questions back and forth to us in general as a team. Now, with Notion AI, and when we start building our knowledge base, we can ultimately replace a lot of that back and forth internally for us as a team with Notion AI, because we can literally ask it questions and we will get answers based on the knowledge that we put together within this actual document. So questions like what is section 321, which is one of like the big advantages that we have for you as customer, is explained here after asking it, because we've written several articles, or there's like knowledge within our actual database, or better said, our source of truth, that we can just ask questions to, which is a really cool function. And I really recommend we're going to use this a lot more as a company. Now, one thing that is also pretty good, which I would like to share with all of you as well, I, within our entire Notion environment, also have my own private space, which is allowing me to just manage tasks in general, which is something that I'm happy to share with you, anyone that wants to. So just send that through to me if you would like access to that, and I can send that to you. Now, where to store this? Very simple. Everyone in here has access to the Econflow Notion. If you don't, you can send Wojtek a message and I'll take care of that. But Econflow is the main page. Now, you have in the left sections, you have 3 parts. Now, C-level SOPs is mainly for me and Vince. But here we have our Econflow playbook. This is really where we store everything. This is our source of truth. How do we store it? As I said, you have to really understand. You have to understand the purpose of your position. And why do we document this in this way? Mainly because, again, it's not just a task list, and we're talking about an SOP, which is SOP is standard operating procedure. And it's not just like a list of tasks. It's just making sure that we can contain consistent high quality outcomes. One thing that is also really important is I need you guys to really take ownership and take the actual mindset of taking ownership and taking pride in the way you're documenting things, because how you work and why you work and how you do all of this is really important, and it really matters. And as I said earlier just now, you as a person responsible for that specific department knows what you're doing, and you should show that throughout your documentation. Now, I'm going to run you very quickly through the structure on how you can actually structure these documents. So first of all, very simple, a title and who owns it. The next thing is an actual introduction. And again, I'll get to those details in a second. So you introduce what is happening here and what is the actual goal. What are we trying to achieve here? Who's doing what? And what is the overall zoomed out perspective of what this actual department is doing, or these specific sets of tasks. And then also you need to add the actual ANAs, as in access, which basically states you need access to this, and that. That is followed by very, very step-by-step simple instructions. As you can see, sequential, which is basically just making sure that it's in the right order, that it makes sense, that it's very simple. You can just work with bullet points, but yet still detailed so that it's clear, as clear as possible. Now, what is really important to understand when writing these things, it's as if you're explaining it to a person. Like let's say we are doing competitor research. You just explain this to another person. That's exactly how you should write this down. Make sure that it's so clear, and that anyone who doesn't even understand our business would be able to read this entire document, get up to speed what we do and how they have to do what you are currently doing. Now, the last part, you have to measure. And measure is something that I mentioned before. It's really important because you can't really manage anything if you can't measure it. That's why it's so important that we as a company start defining our actual goods and bads into each and every single department even better, so that we can really measure our success of each and every single department. So then I want to really thank you for being here and listening to me for close to half an hour right now.
All right, great stuff, Daniel. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, have a good one. All right, let me grab you guys. There we go. We just had the meeting. It was a pretty good meeting. A little tired. I've been up since 4 a.m. today, but let me just give you a few more lessons and learnings about doing something like this. So for those watching and you actually want to implement this for yourself, or you as a person with your business, is what I'm doing here is I am literally pushing each and every single person into a pool. Now, it's going to be very clear who's going to swim and who's going to drown. And what does that mean? Those that will swim will own their department, they will continue to grow it, and they will keep up with the current scale. Those that will drown are in the wrong position and are not qualified at this current stage to actually manage that department. So we're going to have to replace them with someone who actually is, because as I also mentioned during the meeting, The systems, the processes, the people that get you from 0 to 1 are not the people that are going to get you from 1 to 10. And those people are not going to get you from 10 to 20. And that is something that you really have to understand. You've got to find people that are here, that want to come down here and take you there. There's two types of people that learn and people that implement. And you've got to make sure that management level is always people that implement. Now, one of the other things that is really important is, it's like a lot of people are, a little too kind when running a business. Trust me, I have best interest with everyone within the business. But again, you've got to understand that we're a professional sports team. Everyone earns their position, even me. I would say cherry on the pie is when you do this and when you have, your team actually do this, it's going to be very clear. Like the outcome, as in like the documentation that they will present to you, is a direct reflection of their expertise. And that's going to allow you to make your, a decision, which can be a good one or a bad one, So that said, I hope you've enjoyed this training. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. This is, of course, a little different than, my usual videos. But the truth is that I've literally spent all week just inside to prepare this training and, a lot of other things, obviously. But we've got a lot coming up next week. So make sure to check out all of my other videos. And I want to thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys in another one.